Why did a record producer who hated ballads keep a file on a kid who only sang ballads? What really happened on the night of July 5th, 1954, when a moment of foolishness changed music forever? And how did a tiny converted auto parts shop in Memphis, Tennessee become the laboratory for a new American sound? The story of Sun Studio is the story of a perfect accident. It is about a man named Sam Phillips who had a vision. It is about a city, Memphis, that was a crossroads of black and white music. And it is about a young, shy truck driver named Elvis Presley who walked in to record a song for his mother and walked out a king. This is that story, told through the 20 songs that started it all. Number 20, how did a ghostly blues song become rock and roll's Declaration of Independence? Sam Phillips considered Mystery Train to be Elvis Presley's greatest record. The famous guitar riff, played by Scotty Moore, was actually inspired by a country song from 1951. The B-side of this single, I forget, became Elvis's first national #1 hit, topping the country charts. And Phillips added his own name to the songwriting credits, a common but controversial practice that earned him royalties for years. This was the end. It was the last single Elvis Presley would release on Sun Records. It came out in August 1955. By November, his contract would be sold to RCA Victor for the unheard of sum of $35,000. Mystery Train was the culmination of everything Elvis, Scotty Moore, and Bill Black had learned in that small room at 706 Union Avenue. It was the sound of a band at its peak. It was perfect. The song itself had been recorded 2 years earlier, in 1953, by Little Junior Parker. And Parker's version was also on Sun Records. It was a slow, haunting blues. It felt swampy, mysterious. The train in his song was a symbol of loss. It was taking his baby away, and she was gone for good. The rhythm was a slow, mournful shuffle. It was a classic piece of Memphis blues, full of atmosphere and dread. When Elvis, Scotty, and Bill got their hands on it in July 1955, they performed an act of musical alchemy. They kept the ghost of the original, but injected it with a powerful dose of optimism and raw energy. They turned a song of loss into a song of defiance. The session was loose. They were comfortable in the studio now. The early nerves were gone. Scotty Moore started picking a riff. It wasn't blues, it was a lick he borrowed from a country song called I'm Lonesome by the Carter Family. He transformed that country finger-picking into something else. It chugged, it rolled, it sounded like a train's wheels on the track, gaining speed. Bill Black's bass was no longer just keeping time. It was a powerhouse, slapping away, pushing the rhythm forward relentlessly. And then there was Elvis. His voice was confident, he wasn't mourning. He sounded sure of himself. When he sang, Train I Ride, 16 coaches long, it wasn't a lament. It was a statement. In his version, the train that took his baby away is going to bring her right back home. The dread of Junior Parker's original was replaced with a kind of youthful swagger. He had taken a piece of black blues music, filtered it through his own country influences, and created something entirely new. Sam Phillips knew what he was hearing in the control room. This was it. This was the sound he had been chasing. The famous Sun slapback echo, a tape delay effect that Phillips had perfected, was all over the record. It gave Elvis's voice a sense of space and power, making the small studio sound like a vast hall. It made the whole track shimmer with a kind of kinetic energy. This wasn't just a recording, it was a soundscape. Mystery Train was more than a cover, it was a reinvention. It showed how seamlessly Elvis could blend his influences. The lyrics were blues, the guitar lick was country. The rhythm was something else entirely. It was rock and roll, it was the sound of barriers breaking down in a segregated South. The single became a national hit, not just on the country charts, but on the rhythm and blues charts as well. It proved that the music Elvis was making wasn't just a local novelty, it had a national audience. Listening to Mystery Train is like hearing a graduation ceremony, and it's the sound of an artist in a studio that had found their voice. It's the most sophisticated of the Sun recordings, a perfect fusion of style and substance. It was the final, definitive statement of the Sun years. A few months later, Elvis would be at RCA recording in state-of-the-art studios with professional session musicians. The records would get bigger, lusher, and more polished, but they would never again capture the raw elemental magic of this last ride on the Mystery Train. Number 19, why did Elvis turn a blues song into a threat? When Elvis sang, "I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man," he changed the original lyric. The first version of the song had the much milder line, "I would rather be dead, little girl, than to see you with another man." The aggressive stance was pure Elvis. This song was one of the first times Elvis consciously used his famous vocal hiccup as a rhythmic device. The raw, distorted guitar sound from Scotty Moore was not a mistake. It was the sound of his small amplifier being pushed to its absolute limit. Baby, Let's Play House was recorded in February 1955. It marks a significant shift in Elvis's style at Sun. The innocence of the early recordings was starting to peel away, revealing something more primal and dangerous. This was not the polite young man who recorded a song for his mother. This was a rock and roll singer finding his snarl. The original song was written and recorded by a blues musician named Arthur Gunter. His version was a straightforward 12-bar blues. It was good, but it was conventional. Gunter's delivery was relaxed, almost casual. Elvis heard it and saw something else inside it. He saw a vehicle for a new kind of performance. From the opening moments of the Sun recording, you can tell something is different. The track begins with Elvis alone, singing the chorus with a frantic, stuttering energy. His voice hiccups and jumps. It's a vocal tic he would become famous for, but here it sounds less like a gimmick and more like a man struggling to contain his energy. Then the band kicks in. Scotty Moore's guitar is sharp and aggressive. Bill Black's bass is a driving, percussive force. The most shocking part of the song is the lyrical change. Gunter's original was a standard plea. Elvis twisted it into a statement of possessive, almost violent jealousy. That line, "I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man," was startling in 1955. It was a line borrowed from another blues tradition, but in the mouth of this young white singer, it sounded shocking and rebellious. It was a taste of the controversy that would soon follow him everywhere. Parents would hear that line and see a threat to the established order. Teenagers would hear it and feel a thrill. The recording itself is a marvel of controlled chaos. You can hear the room. You can hear the energy. The slapback echo that Sam Phillips used is essential here. It makes Elvis's frantic vocal performance sound even more explosive. It bounces off the walls. Scotty Moore's guitar solo is a masterpiece of economy. It's not technically flashy, but it's full of attitude. He plays with a raw, overdriven tone that cuts through the mix like a razor. Baby Let's Play House was Elvis's fourth single on Sun. It became his first song to appear on a national chart, hitting the Billboard Country and Western chart. This was a huge step. It proved that his appeal was growing beyond Memphis and the Deep South. It also showed how blurry the lines between genres were becoming. Here was a blues song, performed with a rock and roll attitude, charting as a country hit. This record is a turning point. It's where Elvis, the performer, begins to truly emerge. He's not just interpreting a song, he's inhabiting it. He's using his voice as an instrument of rebellion. Like the politeness is gone. In its place is a raw sexual energy that was both thrilling and terrifying to mainstream America. The song was a declaration that this new music wasn't just about dancing. It was about attitude. It was about breaking the rules. And Elvis was more than willing to break them. Number 18, what if the hit version of a song was the wrong one? There are two completely different versions of I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone, recorded by Elvis at Sun. The first, known as the slow version, is a dark, swampy blues number that was shelved by Sam Phillips. The version that was released was a fast-paced, almost novelty country song with a rhythm that Scotty Moore called the popcorn feel. DJ Fontana, who had become Elvis's longtime drummer, played on this track, his first time recording with the group. He used a drum case and a cymbal as a full kit was considered too loud for the studio. This session from March 1955 gives us a rare look inside the creative process at Sun Studio. It shows us that the magic wasn't always immediate. Sometimes it was the result of trial and error. And sometimes the producer made a choice that, in hindsight, might have been the wrong one. The song was written specifically for Elvis by Stan Kessler, a session musician at Sun, and William Taylor. Sam Phillips was actively trying to find original material for his rising star. He wanted songs that could cross over to the country market, which he saw as the key to national success. The first take of the song is astonishing. It's known as the slow version. It's deep blues. Elvis's voice is mournful, full of pain and regret. The tempo is deliberate, almost a funeral march. Scotty Moore's guitar weeps with tremolo. Bill Black's bass walks a slow, lonely path. It sounds like it was recorded in a smoky bar at 3 a.m. It is, by any measure, a powerful and moving performance. It's raw, authentic, and heartbreaking, but Sam Phillips was not satisfied. He felt it was too downbeat, too much of a blues specialty item. He wanted a hit. He wanted something that would get played on the radio. So they tried it again. They completely rearranged the song. They sped it up. They changed the entire feel. The result is the version we all know, the one that was released as the B-side to Baby Let's Play House. The tempo is fast, almost frantic. The mood is upbeat, despite the sad lyrics. DJ Fontana's drumming gives it a perky, shuffling rhythm. It's catchy. It's commercial. It sounds like a country novelty song. Elvis's vocal performance is good, but it lacks the depth and emotion of the slow version. He sounds like he's performing, not feeling. This decision by Phillips highlights the central tension of the Sun years. He was a visionary who loved raw, authentic music. He was also a businessman who needed to sell records to keep his studio afloat. In this case, business won out over art. He chose the commercial version over the artistic one. The slow version would remain unreleased for decades, a hidden gem for hardcore fans and collectors. The inclusion of DJ Fontana was also a significant step. Up to this point, the core sound was just Elvis's voice and rhythm guitar, Scotty's lead guitar, and Bill's upright bass. Bill Fontana had been playing with them live on the Louisiana Hayride radio show, and they brought him into the studio to add more percussion. His simple driving beat helped push the music even further towards what we now recognize as rock and roll. Listening to both versions of I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone is like watching a sculptor chip away at a block of marble. The first version is a rough, powerful, emotional piece. The second is polished, refined, and shaped for public consumption. Both are valid, but they tell very different stories. One tells a story of heartbreak. The other tells the story of a record label trying to make a star. Number 17, how did a famous crooner song become a rockabilly stomper? The song I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine was originally a hit for Patti Page in 1950, a pop vocalist known for her gentle, multi-tracked vocals. Before her, it was introduced by Bing Crosby and Dean Martin in different musical films. Elvis and the band completely ignored the pop origins of the song, treating it as a raw piece of country blues. This was one of the first songs where Bill Black's slap bass technique was a dominant feature of the recording, almost a lead instrument. This track, recorded in September 1954, is a perfect example of the Sun formula in action. Take a song from a completely different genre, strip it down to its bare essentials, and rebuild it with pure, unadulterated energy. It was the B-side to Good Rockin' Tonight, and together they formed one of the most explosive 1-2 punches in early rock and roll. The original versions of the song were sweet and optimistic pop tunes. They were gentle with lush arrangements and smooth vocals. They were the kind of songs you would hear on mainstream radio, the sound of post-war American contentment. The Sun version is anything but content. It's restless, it's urgent. The session for this song was reportedly chaotic. The story goes that they were struggling to find a B-side. Tensions were high. At one point, Elvis supposedly threw his guitar down in frustration and said, "We ain't getting nothing done." And Sam Phillips calmed everyone down. And out of that frustration came this performance. It kicks off with Bill Black's bass, slapping hard and fast. It's not just a rhythm, it's an announcement. It sets a frantic pace that never lets up. Then Elvis comes in, his voice full of a giddy, almost manic energy. He's not crooning, he's shouting with joy. He sings the lines with a reckless abandon that borders on unhinged. Scotty Moore's guitar work is spare and sharp. He plays short, stabbing licks that punctuate Elvis's vocals. There's no fancy solo, just pure rhythmic support that drives the song forward. The whole thing feels like it's about to fly off the rails at any moment, but somehow they hold it together. What Elvis did was take the simple, happy-go-lucky lyrics and inject them with a sense of wild freedom. When he sings, "I don't care if the sun don't shine, I get my lovin' in the evening time," it doesn't sound like a sweet sentiment. It sounds like a declaration of independence from the daylight world of rules and responsibilities. It's a celebration of the night, of youth, of a new kind of freedom. Sam Phillips's production is key. The slapback echo is there, of course, making the track sound bigger than it is. But his real genius was in knowing what to leave out. There are no other instruments, no drums, no piano, just guitar, bass, and voice. This raw, stripped-down approach is what gave the Sun records their power. It was pure, unfiltered music. I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine shows the sheer confidence of Elvis and his band just a few months after their first record. They were no longer timidly feeling their way. They were now actively seeking out songs from any genre and transforming them into their own unique sound. They were taking the polite, mainstream music of their parents' generation and making it dangerous, exciting, and entirely their own. It was an act of musical rebellion, and it was glorious. Number 16 was This the Moment Elvis Became a Rock Star. Good Rockin' Tonight was originally recorded in 1947 by its writer, Roy Brown. His version was a jump blues song with a strong horn section. Elvis likely heard the 1949 cover by Wynonie Harris, which was a much wilder, more frantic rhythm and blues number. The hand claps you hear on the record were reportedly done by all three musicians leaning into one microphone. This was Elvis's second single, and it firmly established his credentials as a rhythm and blues artist, confusing radio programmers across the country. If That's All Right was the happy accident, Good Rockin' Tonight, recorded in September 1954, was the statement of intent. This was Elvis and the band consciously trying to recreate the lightning they had caught in a bottle 2 months earlier, and they succeeded, perhaps even surpassed it. The song had a rich history in black music. Roy Brown's original was a solid jump blues tune, but it was Wynonie Harris's version that set the template for rock and roll. Harris was a wild man, a true R&B shouter. His record was raw, loud, and full of a manic energy that was shocking for the late 1940s. It was this version that Elvis was channeling. The Sun recording starts with just Elvis and his acoustic guitar setting a nervous, energetic pace. Then he shouts, "Well, have you heard the news? There's good rockin' tonight. It's a call to arms." Then Scotty and Bill crash in, and the song explodes. The energy level is even higher than on their first single. Bill Black's bass playing is a revelation. He's not just keeping time, he's a lead instrument, slapping the strings with a percussive fury that is the song's engine. Scotty Moore's guitar solo is a thing of beauty. It's more complex and confident than his work on That's All Right. It's a perfect blend of country picking and blues bends, a true rockabilly masterclass, but the real star is Elvis's voice. He's not just singing the song, he's performing it with every fiber of his being. He uses his full range from a low growl to a high keening falsetto. He hiccups, he stutters, he plays with the rhythm of the words. He's a man possessed by the music. When he sings the line, "I'm gonna hold my baby as tight as I can. Tonight she'll know I'm a mighty, mighty man." It sounds both like a promise and a threat. The raw, untamed sexuality that would define his career is on full display here. Sam Phillips captured it all perfectly. The balance between the instruments is incredible. You can hear every detail, from the click of Bill's bass strings to the raw edge on Elvis's voice. The slapback echo makes the whole track feel alive and electric. When this record was released, it created even more confusion than the first one, and radio stations didn't know what to do with it. Was it country? Was it blues? It didn't fit into any of the neat boxes. Some country DJs refused to play it, saying it was too black. Some R&B DJs were hesitant, thinking he was a black artist until they learned he was white. This confusion was actually the key to its power. Good Rockin' Tonight was the sound of a new world being born, a world where the old musical categories no longer applied. It was a direct challenge to the segregated society of the 1950s. This was more than just a song. It was a cultural event. It was the sound of a young man from Memphis, Tennessee, announcing to the world that there was indeed good rockin' tonight. Number 15, how can a song with a mistake in it be perfect? Milk Cow Blues Boogie features a famous false start. Elvis begins the song as a slow, traditional blues, then abruptly stops the band saying, "Hold it, fellas! That don't move me. Let's get real. Real gone for a change." This entire exchange was a planned part of the arrangement, designed to create dramatic effect. The song was originally recorded by Kokomo Arnold in 1934, a classic pre-war blues number. Scotty Moore's 2 guitar solos on this track are considered some of the most influential in rock and roll history, copied by countless guitarists. Recorded in late 1954, this track is a miniature play. It's a piece of studio theater that perfectly captures the revolutionary spirit of the Sun Sessions. It's a song about breaking with the past and embracing something new and exciting. The song itself had deep roots in the blues. Kokomo Arnold's original was a raw, slide, guitar-driven piece. It had been covered by many country and western swing artists as well, including Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys. So it was a song that existed in both the black and white musical worlds of the time. This made it a perfect vehicle for Elvis. The genius of the Sun version is in its structure. It begins with Elvis singing in a slow, mournful, almost parody of a blues singer. He lays it on thick, his voice full of a mock sadness. Bill Black plays a slow, plodding bass line. It's a faithful, if uninspired, take on a traditional blues. Then comes the moment of magic. Elvis stops everything. "Hold it, fellas." His voice is clear, direct. He breaks the fourth wall. He's talking to the band, but he's also talking to the listener. He's rejecting the old way of doing things. "That don't move me." This is a crucial line. He's declaring that the old forms of music are no longer enough. Let's get real. Real gone for a change. And then they do. The tempo explodes. Bill Black's bass starts slapping like a machine gun. Elvis's voice transforms from a mournful cry to a frantic, high-energy yelp. The song is reborn as a full-throttle rockabilly anthem. Scotty Moore's contribution here cannot be overstated. He delivers 2 solos that are textbook examples of the rockabilly style. They are fast, clean, and full of clever licks that mix blues scales with country picking patterns. His playing is the sound of pure adrenaline. It's the sound of a musician discovering a new language. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones has said that he tried for years to play the solo from Milk Cow Blues Boogie and could never quite get it right. The planned false start was a brilliant theatrical device. It tells a story. It's the story of rock and roll itself. A story of a new generation finding the old music too slow, too sad, too predictable, and deciding to speed it up and make it their own. Sam Phillips understood the power of this moment. He knew that this wasn't just a gimmick. It was a mission statement. It was Elvis Presley, live on record, casting off the weight of tradition and leaping into the future. The record wasn't just a song. It was a demonstration of how music was about to change forever. And it was all done with a wink and a smile. Number 14 was this Elvis's most overlooked Sun masterpiece. Trying to Get to You was not released as a single during the Sun years. It first appeared on Elvis's debut RCA album in 1956. The song was originally a rhythm and blues ballad recorded by a vocal group called the Eagles in 1954. During the session, Elvis's voice was so powerful that it overloaded the microphone, creating a natural distortion that Sam Phillips decided to keep. This recording features some of Elvis's most stunning and acrobatic vocal work of his entire career. This is the hidden jewel of the Sun collection, recorded in July 1955, during the same sessions that produced Mystery Train. This track is arguably the single greatest vocal performance of Elvis's time at Sun. because it wasn't a single, it doesn't have the same fame as the other tracks, but for those who know it, it is a masterpiece. The song was written by R&B musicians Rose Marie McCoy and Charles Singleton. The original version by the Eagles is a smooth doo-wop influenced ballad. It's a fine record, but it is restrained. Elvis took that restraint and threw it out the window. From the opening piano chords played by Elvis himself, the track has a sense of grandeur. And then his voice comes in, and it is simply breathtaking. He sings with a passion and a power that is almost shocking. He swoops from a gentle whisper to a full-throated roar, often in the same phrase. His control is absolute. He hits high notes with a purity and a force that would make an opera singer envious. This is not the raw, hiccuping, rockabilly singer of the early singles. This is a mature, confident vocalist who is in complete command of his instrument. He's not just singing the words, he's living them. When he sings, "I've been traveling over mountains, even through the valleys too," you believe him. You can hear the desperation, the longing, and the determination in every note. The band provides perfect, understated support. Scotty Moore's guitar playing is tasteful and spare, adding beautiful fills that complement the vocal without ever getting in the way. And Bill Black's bass provides a steady, pulsing heartbeat. The focus, however, is squarely on Elvis's voice. The story of the distorted microphone is a key part of the song's legend. In that small studio, with its simple equipment, a singer with the sheer lung power of Elvis could literally overwhelm the technology. Sam Phillips, rather than trying to fix it or ask for another take, recognized that this mistake was actually a gift. The slight distortion on the loudest notes adds to the sense of raw emotion. It's the sound of a singer pushing beyond the limits, both his own and the studio's. It's the sound of pure, unbridled passion. RCA clearly recognized the quality of this recording. When they bought Elvis's contract, they also bought his entire back catalog of unreleased Sun material. They chose to include Trying to Get to You on his first album, a sign of how highly they rated it. Listening to this song is a profound experience. It's a reminder that beneath the rock and roll swagger, the sneer, and the swiveling hips, Elvis Presley was first and foremost a vocalist of astonishing talent. He was not just a cultural phenomenon, he was a truly great singer. And on this recording, in a small studio in Memphis, he gave a performance for the ages. Number 13, How Did a Haunting Ballad Predict a Tragic Future? Blue Moon, the eerie, atmospheric recording Elvis made at Sun, was an accident. The band was trying to record a version of Bill Monroe's Blue Moon of Kentucky, but was struggling. During a break, Elvis started singing the old 1934 pop standard Blue Moon in a high, lonesome falsetto, and Sam Phillips rushed to hit the record button. The spooky ghost-like background vocals are Elvis himself overdubbed. This was a rare use of overdubbing at Sun. The song was not released until 1956 on his first RCA album. This is the strangest record Elvis ever made at Sun. It sounds like nothing else in his catalog. It's a ghostly, minimalist, and deeply unsettling performance that stands in stark contrast to the high-energy rockabilly he was famous for. Recorded in August 1954, it reveals a completely different side of Elvis's musical personality. The song itself was an old standard, written by Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart. It had been a hit for numerous artists and was a staple of mainstream pop music. It was a sentimental, romantic ballad. In Elvis's hands, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a document of profound loneliness. The session was late at night. The story goes that the fluorescent lights in the studio were buzzing, and the mood was strange. Elvis began singing the song in a high, ethereal falsetto, almost like a choir boy. Bill Black started slapping his bass in a weird, syncopated rhythm, creating a clacking, skeletal sound. Scotty Moore added spare, ghostly guitar chords that seemed to hang in the air. Sam Phillips, hearing this strange, unearthly sound coming from the studio, knew he had to capture it. He had them record it. The performance is hypnotic. Elvis's vocal is pure and clear, but it's filled with a sense of deep melancholy. It's the sound of someone completely alone in the world. The most innovative part of the recording was the use of overdubbing. Phillips had Elvis record a second vocal track, a kind of spooky, wordless moaning that echoes his lead vocal. This was highly unusual for Sun. Phillips preferred the honesty of live, unadorned recordings. But here, the technique was used to create a specific, otherworldly atmosphere. The result is that Elvis sounds like he's being haunted by his own ghost. The track has no drums. The rhythm is carried entirely by Bill Black's clicking bass and Elvis's own sense of timing. The space between the notes is as important as the notes themselves. It's a minimalist masterpiece. For years, this recording was a cult favorite, an oddity in the Elvis discography. But over time, its reputation has grown. It's now seen as a work of avant-garde genius, a piece of raw experimental art created in the most unlikely of circumstances. It has been used in films and TV shows to create a sense of unease and dread. Listening to Blue Moon is a chilling experience. It's the sound of the future king of rock and roll at his most vulnerable. In the midst of all the rock and roll chaos, he created this small, perfect, and deeply sad work of art. It's a glimpse into the loneliness that would often haunt him even at the height of his fame. It's a premonition, a ghost story recorded before the main character even knew he was going to be a star. Number 12. Why was Elvis's most sentimental song also his most revealing? I Love You Because was one of the first songs Elvis recorded professionally during his first proper session in July 1954. He had tried to record it during his second personal acetate session earlier that year. There are two distinct versions of the song from the Sun archives. The one that was eventually released was a composite, edited together from several different takes by Sam Phillips. This was his first attempt at a country ballad, showing the influence of his idol, Eddie Arnold. This song pulls back the curtain on the young Elvis Presley. Before the rock and roll explosion, before the sneer and the swagger, there was a young man who loved country music and sentimental ballads. I Love You Because, recorded during the same legendary session as That's All Right, shows us the artist Elvis thought he was going to be. The song was a country hit for Leon Payne in 1949. It's a straightforward, heartfelt declaration of love, with a simple melody and sincere lyrics. It was exactly the kind of material that Elvis, a devoted fan of Grand Ole Opry stars like Roy Acuff and Eddie Arnold, was drawn to. When he got his first real chance in a professional studio, this is the kind of music he wanted to make. The session tapes reveal his struggle with the song. He tried it multiple times. You can hear his nervousness. His voice is high and clear, but it lacks the power and confidence he would soon discover. He's trying to be a crooner. He's carefully enunciating the words. He's imitating his heroes. Sam Phillips was patient, but he wasn't hearing what he wanted. He was looking for something unique, something that didn't sound like everyone else on the radio. This performance, while pleasant, was derivative. It was the sound of a good singer, but not a great one. Not yet. The version that was eventually released on Elvis's first RCA album is an interesting piece of studio craft. Sam Phillips, knowing there wasn't one single perfect take, carefully edited together the best parts of two different takes. This was a painstaking process on reel-to-reel tape, requiring a razor blade and a steady hand. The final result is a seamless performance, but it's a constructed one. In the middle of the song, Elvis recites the lyrics in a spoken word bridge. This was a common device in country ballads of the era, a way to convey sincerity. Here, you can hear the deep, resonant quality of his speaking voice, a hint of the charisma that would soon captivate the world. I Love You Because is a crucial part of the Sun story because it represents the starting point. This was Plan A. This was the kind of music Elvis and the band thought they were there to make. It's a perfectly fine country ballad, but it's not revolutionary. It's the sound of Elvis Presley trying to fit in. The magic of Sun Studio, and of that particular night, is that Plan A failed. The ballad sessions were not producing anything special. It was only when they gave up, when they started fooling around out of frustration, that they stumbled upon Plan B, a frantic, blues-infused, energetic sound that nobody had ever heard before. I Love You Because is the before picture. That's All Right is the after, and the distance between them is the birth of rock and roll. Number 11. Can a Sad Song Sound Happy? You're a Heartbreaker was written by Jack Sally, a local Memphis songwriter. Sam Phillips bought the song for Elvis, hoping for a commercial country hit. It was released as the B-side of Milk Cow Blues Boogie, The high-pitched, almost yodeling vocal breaks that Elvis uses in the song were a trademark of country stars like Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams. This track, recorded in late 1954, is pure, undiluted rockabilly. It's a song with sad lyrics set to a relentlessly upbeat, danceable rhythm. This contradiction is at the very heart of the rockabilly style. It's music for dancing away your troubles. Sam Phillips was always on the lookout for a hit, and he thought this song had potential. It had a catchy melody and a simple, relatable lyric about being let down in love. In the hands of a typical country singer of the day, it would have been a tear in your beer ballad. But this was not a typical country band. From the first note, the track is pure energy. The tempo is brisk. Scotty Moore plays a bright, twangy guitar riff that is instantly memorable. Bill Black's bass provides a solid, bouncing foundation, and over the top of it all is Elvis, sounding like he's having the time of his life. He sings the sad words with a smile in his voice. He's not wallowing in self-pity. He's brushing it off. His vocal is full of playful tricks and flourishes. He jumps into his high register. He hiccups. He adds little yelps and moans. It's a joyful performance of a miserable song. This juxtaposition is what made the Sun sound so fresh and exciting. It was emotionally complex. It acknowledged pain and heartbreak, but refused to be defeated by it. It was resilient music. It was teenage music. The recording itself is a great example of the classic Sun sound. It's clean, clear, and punchy. You can hear the separation between the instruments perfectly. The slapback echo is used subtly, just enough to give Elvis's voice a little extra presence and lift. You're a Heartbreaker may not be one of the most famous of the Sun recordings, but it's one of the most representative of the rockabilly genre they were creating. It has all the key ingredients: a country melody, a blues-inflected vocal, and a driving, danceable rhythm. It also shows how quickly Elvis was developing as a vocalist and a stylist. Just a few months after his first tentative sessions, he was already a master of this new hybrid form. He was able to take a simple country song and infuse it with a personality and an energy that was all his own. He was no longer just a singer. He was a rock and roll star in the making, turning heartbreak into a reason to dance. Number 10, What If a Song's Title Was a Lie? Just Because was a song Elvis had been singing for years, long before he came to Sun. It was a standard in the country and western swing repertoires. The song was first recorded in 1929 by a country group, but the version Elvis knew best was by the Shelton Brothers from the 1930s. When Sun released the song, they gave the songwriting credit to Sam Phillips, Bill Black, and Scotty Moore, which was not accurate. This was a business practice to secure publishing rights, recorded during the Good Rockin' Tonight sessions in September 1954. Just Because is a perfect example of Elvis's deep roots in country music. This wasn't a blues song he was transforming. This was a song from his own backyard, a tune he loved and had sung countless times. And you can hear that love and familiarity in his performance. The song is a classic country lament. The lyrics are about a lover who has left, and the singer is pleading for them to remember the good times. It's a simple, sad song, but in the hands of Elvis and his band, it becomes something more. They play it with a light swinging feel. It's not a full-blown rocker, but it's not a mournful ballad either. It has a gentle, loping rhythm that feels optimistic, even though the words are sad. Bill Black's bass walks along playfully. Scotty Moore's guitar playing is clean and melodic, with a strong western swing influence. Elvis's vocal is relaxed and confident. He's not pushing for effect. He's singing with a natural, easy grace. He adds little vocal flourishes, little turns of phrase that make the song his own. There's a warmth and a sincerity in his voice that is incredibly appealing. He sounds like he's enjoying himself even as he sings about heartbreak. The controversial songwriting credit is a window into the business side of Sun Records. Sam Phillips, like many independent label owners of the time, was not just a producer, he was a publisher. by attaching his name and the names of his session players to a public domain song. He could claim the publishing royalties. It was a way to make extra money in a business with notoriously thin margins. It was a common practice, but it has been a source of debate among music historians for years. Just Because was another track that wasn't released as a single by Sun. It, too, was held back and appeared on Elvis's first RCA album in 1956. It provides a valuable contrast to the more explosive rockabilly numbers. It shows that Elvis was not a one-trick pony. He had a deep understanding and appreciation for traditional country music. This recording is a bridge between the old world and the new. It's a country song played with a modern sensibility. It shows that the rock and roll revolution wasn't about completely destroying the past. It was about taking the best parts of the past, the honesty of country, the emotion of the blues, and reassembling them into something new, vibrant, and alive. Number 9, how did a forgotten B-side become a rockabilly blueprint? I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone. The released version was built on a rhythm that the band called the choo-choo train or popcorn beat. This up-tempo feel was a direct attempt to create a commercial country pop crossover hit. The song was the first time drummer DJ Fontana recorded with Elvis, though his contribution was minimal, using brushes on a snare drum to keep the sound from overpowering the room. We return to this song, but this time to focus on the released version, the popcorn version. It stands as a fascinating document of commercial calculation at Sun. After shelving the moody, atmospheric blues version, Sam Phillips pushed the band to create something radio-friendly. The result is a song that is less of an artistic statement and more of a product designed for the marketplace. The track, recorded in March 1955, is almost relentlessly cheerful. The tempo is brisk. The rhythm, provided by DJ Fontana's subtle brushwork and Bill Black's bass, is a bouncy shuffle. Scotty Moore plays a clean, catchy guitar line. Everything about the arrangement is designed to be upbeat and non-threatening. Elvis's vocal performance is professional and energetic. He hits all the notes. He delivers the lines with a kind of peppy enthusiasm. But when you compare it to the slow version, something is missing. The raw emotion, the sense of genuine heartbreak is gone. He is performing the song rather than inhabiting it. He sounds like a young country singer trying to get a hit, which is exactly what he was. This version is important not for its artistic depth, but for what it tells us about the music business in the 1950s. Sam Phillips was a visionary, but he also had bills to pay. He knew that to break Elvis nationally, he needed a song that could get played on conservative country radio stations. The slow, bluesy version was too dark, too black for that market. This upbeat version was safe. It was commercial. The term popcorn feel is telling. It suggests something light, fluffy, and easily digestible. And that's what this record is. It's a well-crafted piece of country pop that showcased Elvis's charm and vocal ability without any of the dangerous edge that made his best work so revolutionary. As the B-side to the much more aggressive Baby Let's Play House, it created a single with a split personality. The A-side was a snarling, rebellious rocker. The B-side was a piece of polite, radio-friendly country. This was a deliberate strategy. It allowed Sun to market the same record to two different audiences. They were hedging their bets. Listening to this version of I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone is like looking at a carefully retouched photograph. It's pleasant, it's professional, but the interesting flaws, the things that give the subject its character, have been smoothed away. It's a reminder that even in the white-hot crucible of Sun Studio, commercial pressures were never far away. Number 8, could Elvis have been a crooner? Harbor Lights was one of the first songs Elvis ever recorded at Sun in July 1954, even before the That's All Right session. It was an attempt by Sam Phillips to see what the young singer could do with a pop standard. The song was a huge hit in 1950 for singer Sammy Kaye. Elvis's version was not released for over 20 years, first appearing on a compilation album in 1976. The ethereal, high vocal notes Elvis hits are a testament to his incredible natural range, even at this early stage. This recording is a ghost. It's a relic from a timeline that never happened. It's the sound of Elvis Presley trying to be the singer he and Sam Phillips initially thought he should be: a ballad singer, a crooner in the vein of Dean Martin or Perry Como. The session for Harbor Lights took place on July 5th, 1954. This was the first time Elvis was in the studio with Scotty Moore and Bill Black. Phillips had arranged the meeting, hoping the two seasoned musicians could provide a professional backing for the young singer he had on file. The first thing they tried was not rock and roll. It was a slow, sentimental pop ballad from just a few years earlier. The recording is fascinating. Elvis's voice is high, pure, and trembling with vibrato. He's trying so hard to sound like the crooners he heard on the radio. He carefully phrases each line. He reaches for the high notes with a delicate falsetto. It's a beautiful vocal performance in its own way. It shows his raw talent, his perfect pitch, and his incredible vocal range. But it's also passionless. He's imitating, not creating. Scotty Moore and Bill Black sound lost. They are playing gentle, tentative accompaniment. There is no energy. There is no spark. You can hear three musicians in a room trying to make a record, but they have no chemistry. They are playing the notes, but they are not making music. Sam Phillips heard it too. This wasn't it. This wasn't the unique sound he was looking for. This sounded like a decent demo for a singer who might get a job on a local radio show. It was competent, but it wasn't special. The recording was shelved. It was deemed a failure. For 2 decades, almost no one heard this recording. It sat in the Sun Vaults, a forgotten experiment. When it was finally released, it provided a stunning insight into the very beginning of the story. Listening to Harbor Lights is like finding the first pencil sketch for a masterpiece painting. All the elements are there, the talent, the voice, but the vision is not yet clear. It is the sound of Elvis Presley before he was Elvis Presley. It's a crucial reminder that the revolution that was about to happen was not planned. It was born out of the failure of this very kind of music. It was born when they gave up trying to be something they were not, and finally decided to be themselves. Number 7. How can a recording be both a failure and a triumph? Tomorrow Night is another song that shows Elvis's love for deep blues and gospel. The song was a big hit for bluesman Lonnie Johnson in 1948. Elvis's version, recorded in the fall of 1954, is a solo performance, featuring only his voice and acoustic guitar. And Sam Phillips was so taken with the performance that he later overdubbed a ghostly choir and additional instrumentation, but the original, stripped-down version is the most powerful. It also remained unreleased by Sun. This is Elvis at his most raw and vulnerable, recorded between September and December 1954. Tomorrow Night is not a rock and roll song. It's a piece of pure, unadulterated blues, sung with the fervor of a gospel hymn. It's a solo performance that is as intimate and revealing as anything he ever recorded. The song, written by Sam Coslow and Will Gross, had been around for a while, but it was Lonnie Johnson's 1948 recording that made it a blues standard. Johnson's version was smooth and sophisticated. Elvis strips the song down to its emotional core. It's just him and his acoustic guitar. The recording has an almost confessional quality. His voice is deep and resonant. He sings with a slow, deliberate pace, wringing every bit of emotion out of the lyrics. The song is about the hope of being reunited with a lover, but in Elvis's hands, it takes on an almost spiritual quality. It sounds like a prayer. His guitar playing is simple but effective. He's not a virtuoso, but he has a great sense of rhythm. He uses the guitar to create a sparse atmospheric backdrop for his voice. The focus is entirely on the singing, and the singing is extraordinary. He uses his full dynamic range from a soft, breathy whisper to a powerful, soaring cry. Sam Phillips was deeply impressed by this performance. He saw it as proof of Elvis's incredible interpretive gifts. However, he also knew that it wasn't commercial. It was too slow, too dark, too intense for the radio. He filed it away. Years later, after Elvis was a huge star, Phillips returned to the tape. He overdubbed a female choir and a more polished musical backing, trying to make it more commercial. But These additions only detract from the raw power of the original solo performance. The original unadorned version of Tomorrow Night is a masterpiece of minimalism. It's the sound of a young artist connecting with a piece of music on a deeply personal level. It shows that his understanding of the blues was not superficial. He didn't just borrow the style, he understood the feeling. This recording, like Harbor Lights, represents another path Elvis could have taken. He could have been a folk blues singer, a powerful interpreter of traditional American music, but that was not his destiny. Instead, this powerful private performance remained a secret, a testament to the depth and soulfulness that lay beneath the surface of the rock and roll phenomenon. Number 6, What Was the Last Song Elvis Ever Recorded at Sun? When It Rains, It Really Pours was the very last song Elvis Presley recorded at Sun Studio in a session in late 1955, likely around November. The recording was unfinished and was never completed at Sun. He would re-record the song for RCA in 1957. The Sun version is slower, moodier, and more blues inflected than the later, more polished RCA take. This raw demo remained unreleased for decades. This is the final sound. This is the last time Elvis Presley's voice was captured on tape at 706 Union Avenue. The recording is incomplete, a fragment, a ghost of a song, and that makes it all the more poignant. The song was written by Billy the Kid Emerson, another Sun artist. Emerson's version is an upbeat, witty jump blues number. Elvis, in this final Sun session, takes it in a completely different direction. His version is a slow, grinding blues. The mood is dark and heavy. You can hear the weariness in his voice. By late 1955, Elvis was no longer an unknown truck driver. He was a regional star, touring relentlessly. The pressure was mounting. The negotiations for his contract buyout were underway. The innocence of the early days was gone. The recording is clearly a work in progress. They try it a few times. The band sounds a little unsure of the arrangement. Elvis's vocal is powerful, but it's also searching. He's feeling his way through the song. He sings with a deep, world-weary ache. It's the sound of a young man who has seen too much too soon. There is a sense of finality to this recording. The energy of Good Rockin' Tonight and the joy of I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine have been replaced by a kind of brooding intensity. Rock and roll was no longer a game they were playing in the studio. It was a business. It was a career. And it was taking its toll. The session was never completed. The deal with RCA was finalized, and Elvis moved on. He would return to this song 2 years later in a big Hollywood studio and record a much more polished, professional version. But that version lacks the raw, desperate edge of this Sun demo. Listening to the Sun take of When It Rains, It Really Pours is like reading the last page of a diary. It's an unfinished thought. It's a snapshot of a moment of transition. It's the sound of a door closing. The Sun years, that magical 18-month period of creativity and discovery, were over. The next chapter would be bigger, richer, and more famous. But it would never be the same. This rough, unfinished recording is the sound of goodbye. Number 5, how did a bluegrass song become a rock and roll anthem? Blue Moon of Kentucky, the B-side to That's All Right, was originally a slow waltz, written and recorded by the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe. Elvis and the band initially tried to play it in its original 3/4 time signature and failed. It was Bill Black who started fooling around, slapping his bass and singing the song in a high, comical voice, which inspired Elvis to sing it in a faster 4/4 time. When Bill Monroe first heard Elvis's version on the radio, he reportedly said, "I believe that's a dirtying up my music." He later re-recorded the song in the faster rockabilly style himself, as it was earning him huge royalties. This is the other half of the Big Bang. If That's All Right was the blues side of the equation, Blue Moon of Kentucky was the countryside. Recorded on the same night, July 5th, 1954, it was the song that completed the formula and defined the new genre of rockabilly. The story of its creation is as accidental and magical as that of its A-side. After they had captured the lightning in a bottle with That's All Right, a transformed Arthur Crudup blues song, Sam Phillips needed a B-side. He asked the boys what else they knew. Elvis suggested the Bill Monroe classic. Monroe's original is a beautiful, mournful ballad. It's a slow, sad waltz sung with a high, lonesome tenor. It is the very definition of traditional bluegrass. It's a song of deep tradition and respect for the past. Elvis, Scotty, and Bill launched into it, but in its original slow tempo, it fell flat. It was just another passable but uninspired cover. The energy that had filled the room moments before was gone. Then came the second accident of the night. During a break, Bill Black, a natural showman, picked up his upright bass and started slapping it in a fast, driving rhythm. He began singing Blue Moon of Kentucky in a high, silly, falsetto voice, mocking the original. Elvis and Scotty joined in, laughing. But Sam Phillips in the control room heard something else. He heard the energy returning. He stuck his head out and said, "That's it. That's the sound. Get back in there and do it just like that." They did. They took Monroe's slow waltz and kicked it into overdrive. They changed the time signature from 3/4 to a driving 4/4. And Elvis sang it with a wild, joyful abandon. His voice swooped and soared. The slapback echo from the studio walls made it sound like he was shouting from a mountaintop. Scotty Moore played a sharp, twangy guitar solo that was pure country adrenaline. Bill Black's bass was the engine, a percussive, unstoppable force. They had done it again. They had taken a classic song from a traditional genre and completely reinvented it. They had taken a sad song and made it a celebration. When the single was released, with the blues song on one side and the country song on the other, it was a perfect representation of the new music. It was the sound of the two great streams of Southern music, black and white, crashing together. The reaction was immediate and polarized. And country purists were horrified, but a new generation of listeners was thrilled. This was music that spoke their language. Bill Monroe himself, after his initial shock, came to appreciate the new version. The royalties from the Elvis cover made him more money than he had ever seen. In a wonderful twist, he started performing the song in the faster, rockabilly style, a tribute to the young man who had taken his classic and turned it into something new for a new generation. Number 4, what did the secretary hear that the producer missed? I'll Never Stand in Your Way was the second song Elvis recorded on his second personal acetate in January 1954. The song was a schmaltzy pop ballad, and Elvis's performance was heavily influenced by the popular crooners of the day. It was this recording, along with Casual Love Affair, which is lost, that prompted Sam Phillips's assistant, Marion Keisker, to write on Elvis's file Good Ballad Singer, Hold. She heard a unique quality in his voice that Phillips himself initially dismissed. This is another piece of the prehistory, another glimpse of Elvis before he was Elvis. This recording, made 6 months before the That's All Right session, is the sound of a young man with a dream, but no direction. He had come back to the Memphis Recording Service to make another record for himself. His first one, With My Happiness, and that's Old She Knew, had gotten him noticed, at least by Marion Keisker. This time, he came prepared with 2 more ballads. I'll Never Stand in Your Way is a slow, sentimental song. It's the kind of thing you would hear on the radio late at night. Elvis's performance is earnest and sincere. He sings with a heavy vibrato, trying to sound mature and professional. You can hear him concentrating on his phrasing, on hitting the notes perfectly. It's a competent performance. It shows, once again, his natural vocal talent. His pitch is perfect. His tone is pleasant. But it's also generic. He sounds like a dozen other young singers trying to make it. There is none of the personality, none of the danger, none of the raw energy that would soon define him. This is the recording that solidifies Marion Keisker's role as the unsung hero of the Elvis story. Sam Phillips was a genius, but his genius was focused on finding something raw and authentic, something that broke the mold. He heard this ballad and was unimpressed. It was more the same. He was looking for blues singers, for wild men. But Keisker heard something different. She looked past the derivative style and heard the quality of the instrument itself, his voice. She heard a unique timbre, a natural resonance that was special. She was the one who kept his file active. She was the one who kept reminding Sam Phillips about the kid with the sideburns who could sing. Her note, "Good ballad singer, hold," was a small act of faith that would have enormous consequences. Listening to "I'll Never Stand in Your Way" is a strange experience. On its own, it's an unremarkable piece of music. But in the context of the larger story, it's a vital clue. It's the sound that almost got away. It's the sound that one person in the room believed in, even when her boss did not. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes history is made not by a grand gesture, but by a quiet handwritten note on a file folder. Number 3 was this the most important B-side in history. The song "My Happiness" was recorded by Elvis Presley on his first ever visit to a studio in the summer of 1953. He paid approximately $4 for the session. The long-standing story is that he recorded it as a belated birthday present for his mother Gladys, whose birthday was in April. A more likely reason is that he was hoping to be discovered. The single copy of this acetate record was lost for decades, believed to be gone forever, until it was rediscovered and purchased by musician Jack White in 2015 for $300,000. He then had it reissued for Record Store Day. This is it. The very beginning. The first time the voice was ever captured on a disc. This is not a professional recording. This is a personal artifact, a piece of musical folk art created by a nervous 18-year-old truck driver with a guitar and a dream. In the summer of 1953, Elvis Aaron Presley walked into the Memphis recording service, which during the day operated as a public service. For a few dollars, anyone could come in and record their own voice onto a 10-inch acetate disc. The song he chose to sing was "My Happiness," a pop standard that had been a hit a few years earlier. It was a safe, sentimental choice. The recording is simple and unadorned. It's just Elvis and his acoustic guitar, which he plays tentatively. His voice is high and clear, but you can hear the nerves. He sounds young, innocent, and full of a yearning that is almost painful to hear. He is, once again, imitating the singers he admired. He uses a heavy vibrato. He sings with a formal, polite diction. There is not a hint of the blues or the wild energy that would later define him. This is the sound of a good boy, a dutiful son, singing a sweet song. The famous story about the record being a gift for his mother is a beautiful piece of mythology. It's a story that Elvis himself told for years. It's possible, it's true, but it's also likely that he was, like so many other young musicians in Memphis, hoping that Sam Phillips would hear him and give him a chance. Marion Keisker was at the front desk that day. She was the one who took his money and operated the recording lathe. She was the one who asked him who he sounded like. His famous and perhaps apocryphal reply was, "I don't sound like nobody." She was intrigued. She made a note of his name and address. She also, crucially, made a safety copy of the recording on the studio's tape machine, just in case the young man impressed her boss. The acetate disc that Elvis took home that day became a family treasure and then a lost artifact. He left it at a friend's house, and for more than 60 years, its whereabouts were a mystery. Its rediscovery and subsequent sale made headlines around the world. Listening to "My Happiness" is a profound, almost voyeuristic experience. It's like looking at a baby picture of a future president. You are hearing pure, unformed potential. You are hearing a young man who has no idea of the incredible journey that lies ahead of him. It's the sound of a quiet moment before a hurricane. It's the first note in a symphony that would change the world. Number 2, who really discovered Elvis Presley? The date was July 5th, 1954. The song was "That's All Right." The session was a failure. They had been trying for hours to record ballads, with no success. Elvis, Scotty Moore, and Bill Black were frustrated and tired. During a break, Elvis started jumping around, acting the fool, singing an old blues song by Arthur Big Boy Crudup. He wasn't trying to make a record, he was just blowing off steam. Sam Phillips was in the control room, about to pack it in. He heard the sound, stuck his head out the door, and asked, "What are you doing?" Scotty replied, "We don't know." Phillips said, "Well, back up, find a place to start, and do it again." This is the moment. The central scene in the legend of rock and roll. It is a story that has been told so many times. It has taken on the quality of a myth, but at its core, it is a true story about a moment of pure, unplanned, accidental genius. Arthur, Big Boy Crudups, That's All Right, from 1946 was a straightforward mid-tempo blues. It was a good song, but it was not a revolutionary one. Elvis knew the song, loved the blues, and in a moment of frustration, he started singing it, but he sang it his way. He sped it up, he sang it with a frantic, joyful energy. He changed the phrasing, playing with the rhythm of the words. He was no longer a polite ballad singer. He was a man possessed. Bill Black heard what Elvis was doing and joined in. He started slapping his upright bass, not in a traditional blues or country style, but with a driving, percussive rhythm that was all his own. It was the sound of a man hitting his instrument like a drum. Scotty Moore was caught by surprise. He picked up his guitar and started playing along, trying to find a riff that would fit this new, strange sound. His guitar licks are tentative at first, then more confident. He's blending country picking with a blues sensibility, creating a new musical vocabulary on the fly. And in the control room, Sam Phillips heard it. He heard the thing he had been searching for years. He had famously said, "If I could find a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion." And here it was walking through his door all along, hidden inside a polite ballad singer. The key to the moment is that it was not a performance. It was an act of release. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were just having fun. And in that moment of unselfconscious joy, they created something brand new. Phillips had them do it again, and this time he was rolling tape. The recording that we have is raw, electric, and full of a life-affirming energy. You can hear the sound of the room. You can hear the space between the instruments. You can hear three young men discovering a new world. Elvis's vocal is a marvel. It's light, athletic, and full of a kind of breathless excitement. He's not singing about, deep pain or sorrow. He's singing about shaking off trouble and moving on. It's the most optimistic sounding blues song ever recorded. That's All Right was not a hit in the traditional sense. It was a local phenomenon in Memphis. DJ Dewey Phillips, no relation to Sam, played the record over and over again on his radio show, and the switchboard lit up. The kids got it, even if the music industry didn't. This recording is more than a song, it's a historical document. It's the sound of a cultural shift. It's the sound of the post-war generation finding its voice. It wasn't planned. It wasn't calculated. It was just a happy accident on a hot summer night in Memphis. And it changed everything. Number one, what if the greatest discovery was an accident? The Memphis Recording Service, the home of Sun Records, was a long, narrow room, about 18 by 30 feet. The walls were covered with acoustic tiles, the floor was asphalt, there was no separate vocal booth. The musicians all played together in the same room, live. Sam Phillips used a technique called slapback echo, which he created by feeding the sound from one tape machine to another with a slight delay. This technique, born of necessity and experimentation, became the signature sound of Sun Records and a defining feature of rockabilly music. The entire studio was a laboratory, and the Elvis Presley sessions were its most famous experiment. The story of Sun Studio is not just the story of Elvis Presley. It's the story of a place, a time, and a man with a vision. The 20 songs explored here are not just a collection of old records. They are a diary of a revolution. They tell the story of how a new sound was forged in a small, unassuming room through a combination of talent, luck, and sheer, unadulterated passion. The studio itself was a humble place. It had been an auto parts store. The acoustics were a happy accident. The sound bounced off the walls in a way that gave the recordings a natural reverberation and life. Sam Phillips was not a trained audio engineer. He was a former radio man who learned by doing. He was a tinkerer and experimenter. He was not afraid to break the rules because, in many cases, he didn't know what the rules were. His famous slapback echo was a perfect example of this. He was trying to find a way to make his recordings sound bigger, to give them more depth. He fiddled with his two Ampex tape recorders until he found a sound he liked. It was a simple, elegant solution that gave his records a rhythmic, shimmering quality that no one else had. But the technology was only part of the story. The real magic of Sun was in its philosophy. Sam Phillips believed in authenticity. He was not looking for polished perfection. He was looking for raw emotion. He wanted to record what he called the perfect imperfection. He wanted to capture the sound of real people making real music. He created an environment where musicians felt free to experiment, to make mistakes, to be themselves. That is why the Elvis sessions were so magical. He brought in a nervous young kid who wanted to be a ballad singer. He paired him with two experienced local musicians, and then he let them play. He didn't tell them what to do. He waited for the magic to happen. And on the night of July 5th, 1954, it did. The story of the Sun Years is a story of constant discovery. With each session, Elvis, Scotty, and Bill grew more confident. They took songs from every corner of the American musical landscape, blues, country, pop, bluegrass, and they made them their own. They were creating a new language in real time. The 18 months that Elvis Presley recorded at Sun Studio represent one of the most incredible creative bursts in the history of popular music. You know, in that short time, in that small room, the entire blueprint for rock and roll was drawn. The sound, the attitude, the fusion of black and white musical traditions, it all started there. When RCA bought his contract in late 1955, it was the end of an era. Elvis would go on to become the biggest star in the world. He would make bigger, more polished records, but the raw, untamed, revolutionary spirit of the Sun recordings would never be fully recaptured. Those records remain as a testament to a time when music was changing and a young man from Memphis, Tennessee was at the very center of the storm. They are the sound of a world being turned upside down, one song at a time.